Hi, this is Bruce, and today we're going to finish off the insert form so we can insert information through the form rather than through the URL. So last video we finished up with the error checking on our insert. And so essentially what we're doing is we are getting the information from, in this case, a request, but it can be a post or a get. And then binding those parameters and executing and inserting the information, and then returning a confirmation that the information has been inserted in JSON form. Or if there's an error, returning error messages also in JSON form. So we've got the actual page here. Actually, let's look at it here with a form on it. And what we want to do is then, first of all, display the information from the database onto that page. So we're going to come over here and we're going to create an async await function in exactly the same way as we did for our APIs. So async, and I should probably just copy this, and I can't spell async apparently. But we'll type it out and I might speed this up a little bit. Let's call it fetch favorite, fetch favorites. And we're going to pass in the URL here rather than create a constant. And then we'll get the response. So we're creating a variable called response and making that equal to the fetch URL in the form of an await. Once we get the response, then we're going to take that data, and again we're going to await and convert it, so response to JSON. And then we can console log here. So we're going to console log the data. And now let's call that function. And so our URL that we were working on is, I guess, insert underscore version 2 that has the error checking, and it's in an app subfolder. So our URL is app, and then insert version 2.php. So if we save that, just make sure that I've got it connected, and I do. And now if we come back to here and refresh, we should see non-white space. There's a problem. Oh, it's not insert, it's select. And so you can see here we've got the data from the database. And I'll skip over this next part, but essentially we're just going to create a function now just to display the data. And then we'll come down here and do function, display data, pass in the data that we've received from the fetch, and then we'll go through. I'll go through and I'll create some elements so that they can display on the page. I'll be right back. So you can see I've pasted in some code here, copying a little bit from one of the APIs, the Cocktail API. And so you can see here I've created a constant based on the display element. So I'm going to be displaying the data in this section here. I'm just zeroing out or getting rid of anything that happens to be there already in case we want to refresh every time somebody adds a new TV show. I'm creating an unordered list, and then for each user, for each record in the database, I'm adding their name, likes to watch, and then the TV show, and putting that there. I'm not putting their emails, right? We don't need to publicize that, but we have that in the database in case we need it. Okay. So now let's save this, right? We're starting, or we're calling fetch favorites, and then from fetch favorites, async await function, we're calling display data, and hopefully we'll display the data on the page. You scroll down here, and you can see Bruce Norton likes to watch Game of Thrones, and of course with the caveat of just the not the last 2 seasons as much. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is create a function in order to submit the information from the form. Right? So here's our form. I've put it in a section called Insert, and I've called the form Insert Form. And this by doing this, it'll allow me to get rid of the form and change the page later if I need to. So first of all, we need to get an event listener. So when somebody clicks on the Share Your Favorite TV Show button, and that's an ugly button. I need to reformat that. I need to do some CSS. But when they click on the button, then we need to create a function to submit the data. So I'm going to create a constant, call it submit button. Use a query selector, and I guess it's called submit. And then I'm going to create that event listener. So it's a click event, and we're going to get the form data. So we're going to get the data from the form, and then we're going to, after that, we'll use another function to send it. So let's create that get form data function. And we'll put event in as the parameter, and then we'll do event prevent default. And I'm not using a form element or a form submit button, but if I were, then this would stop the form from submitting before I get to do what I want. And then we're going to get the form data and call an async function. So the form data exists in a form data object. So I'm going to call it insert form, because that's what it is, data, and equals new. So form data here is a built-in method to, or built-in object, I guess, in JavaScript. And we're going to set that to be the insert form. So it's getting the data from the element or from the form with an ID of insert form. So we can see here, right, I've got my form, and the ID of my form is called insert form. So that's where I'm getting that from. Then we can let the URL be equal to that app insert version 2.php. And then we'll call the async await function. I'm going to call it inserter. I'm terrible at naming functions and stuff like that, so I should take more time to figure this out. And we're going to pass in, so it's insert form data. So we're going to pass in 2 parameters. So one, it's the data that we're getting from the form, right? So the data we're getting from the form, and the other is the URL that we've created here. Obviously, I could have done the URL in the other one, but that's fine. Or I could have done the URL in this async function, but I don't know. This is just the way I'm thinking today. Data, so grabbing those parameters, and then I want to do the fetch. So I'm making response be equal to the await function for the fetch URL. And so this is a bit new, and something, I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. So this is a bit new and something that only a few of you have done so far. But one of the things that we can do when we're doing fetch, as well as a URL, is to pass in some headers. So to pass in the headers, we're going to create a JavaScript object, right? So we've got the curly braces for the object. And the things that we're going to pass in are, first of all, method. And our method, so this is our form method, so it's going to be post, or it's our HTTP method, which is post. And then the body of our of what we're posting is going to be the data that we're receiving from the form, right? So it's we're sending the form data here that we're getting from the form, and then so that data is getting passed into here where it's called data, and then we're sending that data to the form here. And then we're going to get a confirmation back, or a response. I'm going to call it a confirmation, and we're going to make that an await. And response. And then let's console log out that confirmation. So this is obviously pretty simple. Why is this highlighting in a strange way? Response.json, await response.json. Constant confirmation equals response.json. Unless I'm missing, could not find name response. Did you mean response? Did I call it response somewhere? I did call it response. Response. There we go. Okay. Should be good now. It's a nice little feature of Visual Studio Code, finding my typos for me before I make them. So let's go over here, and so you can see the last one is Tony likes to watch The Sopranos, and I don't know, Bob at .com, and he likes to watch Breaking Bad. And let's click on that. And nothing happened. Let's refresh this. Bob at .com, Breaking Bad. And now let's click on this. And we're getting some bad JSON back. So there's a problem somewhere. So we've sent the full name, email, and Breaking Bad. I wonder if it's because I've got some malformed. Yeah, so the problem is we've got some malformed JSON, because we've got two different messages that are happening. But if we go into phpMyAdmin and browse, we can see Bob did get inserted there. And then now if we go back to the actual page and refresh, you can see that Bob is there. Let's add one more thing, just for fun. So we'll come here and we will call the display fetch favorites from within here. So it will refresh the page so we can see the call function again to refresh the page. Okay, and then to fix the error that we were getting, because I had multiple JSON objects being encoded, what I've done is for the throw exception errors, instead of echoing out right away like I did in the demo when I was just doing it in using a get URL, I'm just adding the errors to the results database, so or the results array, and then finally coding out the encoding the JSON. So I've removed the echo from line 31 in the prepared statement. And then in the catch, instead of echoing the JSON out, the error message out directly via JSON, I'm only echoing it out at the end. So at the end, it will echo out anything that we get from the results array here, plus anything that was added in the catch here. And so what we've done is we've the first part of it here for the fetching and displaying the data is very, very similar to what we've done for your personal APIs. And the second part here is how we're submitting the information to the PHP. So essentially, we're creating an event listener so that when somebody clicks on submit, it'll call the get form data function. The get form data function grabs the data that's the user's inserted into the form, and then calls the inserter function, passing the form data plus the URL of our PHP. Then in the inserter function, which is an async await function, we're fetching, although we're not fetching, we're sending, but it's still called fetch. And we're sending or along with, and what we're sending is the data from the form that we've passed from here, and we're defining the method as post. Right, so these are headers that are getting passed. And then we're getting a confirmation, and this is the thing I have to fix up, is the, I hope this helps.